You know that feeling when you're drowning, but instead of water, it's expectations? That was my life. For years, I bled myself dry, literally and figuratively, to keep the family afloat. The bills, the holidays, even Ellie's tuition fees, I paid for it all. And not just the basics. Oh no, they wanted luxury. Mom's facelift? My paycheck. Dad's imported leather couches? My overtime hours. Mandy's designer handbags? Guess who forked over his last dime? Me. Always me. I worked 2 jobs back to back, grinding myself into dust so they could live like royalty. By day, I was crunching numbers at a desk job. By night, I stocked shelves at a grocery store until my feet screamed for mercy. My car? Gone. Sold to cover one of their emergencies. Did they thank me? Of course not. They treated my sacrifices as if they were owed, like I existed solely to fund their fantasies. And then came the day everything shattered. I collapsed at work, not from an illness, not from some dramatic plot twist, but from sheer exhaustion. The doctors said I needed rest, but how could I? There was always another bill, another demand waiting for me. When I woke up in that sterile hospital room, hooked up to machines, I realized something. I wasn't human to them anymore. I was a cash machine, a bottomless ATM with legs. Every time I gave, they took more. Every time I stretched myself thinner, they acted entitled to more. But here's the thing about stretching too far. You snap. And when I did, it wasn't just me breaking free. It was the beginning of the end for their golden facade. There's a peculiar kind of loneliness that comes with being treated like an ATM. It's not the kind of loneliness that comes from silence or solitude. It's worse. It's the kind where you're surrounded by people, yet they only see you as a means to an end. That was my life for years. I became their cash machine, their pet wallet, their personal bailout fund. They didn't just rely on me. They devoured me. Every dollar I earned seemed to have their name on it before it even hit my bank account. And gratitude? Forget it. Gratitude was never part of the deal. Jacob, my older brother, made sure everyone knew how little he thought of me. One evening, at a dinner party filled with his loud, obnoxious friends, he laughed and said, "You know what's funny about him? He's got no life. Just shows up, pays the bills, and disappears. Honestly, he's like a ghost, except ghosts don't come with receipts." His friends roared with laughter, clinking their glasses while I sat there, forcing a smile, pretending I didn't hear the knife twist deeper into my chest. But oh, it wasn't just Jacob. Mandy, my sister, took it to another level. In their secret group chat, which I later discovered, she nicknamed me Pet Wallet, as if reducing me to something small and disposable made her feel better about taking everything I had. And then there were my parents, who somehow managed to make guilt their full-time job. When I finally said no to Ellie's private school tuition after already covering 3 semesters, they didn't just ask why. No, they accused me of being selfish, heartless, even cruel. "How could you do this to your own family?" my mom screeched over the phone, her voice trembling with rage. "Ellie's future is at stake, and you're too stingy to help?" My dad chimed in, cold and calculated. "If you cared about this family, you'd understand that sacrifices need to be made." Sacrifices? Oh, the irony. I had been sacrificing myself for them for years, and now, when I dared to draw a line, I was the villain. But here's the thing about being labeled selfish. It stings when you know deep down you've given everything. I wanted to scream back, to tell them how exhausting it was to carry their weight, how suffocating it felt to be seen as nothing more than a paycheck. But instead, I stayed quiet, letting their words echo in my head long after the call ended. Because the truth was, no matter what I did, it would never be enough. They weren't looking for a brother or a son. They were looking for a lifeline. And lifelines, once frayed, snap under pressure. There's a moment in every person's life when the ground beneath them shifts, and everything they thought was solid crumbles into dust. For me, that moment came on New Year's Eve, standing on my family's front porch, staring at a glittering sign taped to their door. "No drama in 2025, stay home, cash machine." The words hit me like a freight train, each one sharper than the last. At first, I thought it was some sick joke, a prank gone too far. But then I noticed the details, the careful handwriting, the precise alignment of the letters, the deliberate choice of glittery paper. This wasn't an accident. It was calculated, cold, cruel. I stood there frozen, clutching the champagne bottle in one hand and Ellie's gift in the other, my mind racing. Was this really how they saw me? Not as a brother, not as a son, but as a walking ATM? The wind howled around me, whipping through the trees, and for a second, I thought it might actually knock the bottle out of my grip. My hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the weight of realization crashing over me. This wasn't just a sign, it was a message, a declaration. They had planned this, discussed it, agreed on it. Somewhere inside, they were laughing about it right now, probably sipping wine, congratulating themselves for finding the perfect way to keep me in line while keeping me at arm's length. What hurt the most wasn't the sign itself, it was what it represented. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped being family to them. I wasn't invited to celebrate or share memories. I was summoned to pay, to fund their vacations, their luxuries, their dreams. And now, without hesitation, they had reduced my role to something so small, so disposable. Stay home, it said, as if I didn't belong there, as if my presence was optional, but my wallet wasn't. I read those words 3 times, each pass carving deeper into my chest. My vision blurred, whether from anger or exhaustion, I couldn't tell. All I knew was that I couldn't unsee this. I couldn't unfeel it. The family I'd sacrificed everything for, the family I'd bled myself dry for, had hung a neon sign around my neck, labeling me as nothing more than a financial tool. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. There comes a moment when silence speaks louder than words, and for me, that moment was the sound of my own footsteps echoing down their front path. After placing Ellie's gift on the step, a box wrapped in silver paper, a science kit she'd begged me for months to buy, I turned around without knocking, without ringing the bell, without even sending a text. I didn't owe them an explanation anymore. The glittery sign on their door had said it all. No drama in 2025, stay home, cash machine. They didn't want me there. They wanted what I could give. So I gave them one last thing, silence. The drive home felt longer than usual, each mile stretching out like the heavy weight pressing against my chest. My phone buzzed incessantly, missed calls, texts, voicemails, but I ignored them all. By the time I walked through my apartment door, exhaustion hit me like a tidal wave. I left the champagne unopened on the counter, turned off my phone, and collapsed into bed. For 12 hours, I slept as if my body knew something my mind hadn't fully accepted yet. I was done. Done being used. Done being invisible. But the universe has a way of forcing clarity when you least expect it. The next morning, as I sipped coffee and stared blankly at the wall, an email notification popped up on my laptop screen. It was from my bank, a statement showing my account balance dangerously close to zero. Zero. Years of sacrifice, years of working overtime, skipping vacations, selling my car, enduring ridicule, and this was where it had led me. Empty. Not just financially, but emotionally. Every dollar I earned seemed to vanish into their endless demands, leaving me hollow in return. That email wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was a mirror reflecting everything I'd tried to ignore. How many times had I convinced myself that my role was noble, that supporting family meant giving until there was nothing left? But now, staring at those cold figures, I realized the truth. I wasn't helping them. I was enabling them. Their greed had consumed me, and I let it because I thought love meant sacrifice. I didn't cry or scream. Instead, I sat there, frozen, with the realization sinking deep into my bones. This was it, the final straw. From that moment forward, I vowed never to be their safety net again. No more rescuing. No more excuses. I would choose myself for the first time in my life. When the money tap runs dry, the cracks in the foundation become impossible to ignore. For my family, that moment came like a tidal wave they never saw coming. Without my financial support, their world unraveled faster than I could have imagined. Mandy was the first to fall. Her polished Instagram persona, luxury vacations, designer handbags, and champagne-filled brunches crumbled overnight when someone posted a screenshot of her alongside the caption, "The girl who lived off her brother." The backlash was brutal. One of her biggest brand deals terminated their partnership, issuing a public statement. "We do not condone exploitation or emotional manipulation, especially within families." Just like that, her influencer empire evaporated. She went from posting envy-inducing photos to deleting her account entirely, unable to face the ridicule flooding her comments. But Mandy's downfall was only the beginning. My parents, once kings of their gilded castle, found themselves drowning in debt. The mansion they purchased with my money, a symbol of their so-called success, was sold at a fraction of its value. They moved into a tiny, rundown apartment on the outskirts of town, trading marble countertops for peeling wallpaper and chandeliers for flickering fluorescent lights. Their friends stopped calling, too embarrassed to associate with the couple everyone now whispered about as the ones who treated their son like an ATM. Jacob's marriage became the next casualty. Kelly, his wife, stumbled upon the leaked group chat messages where he mocked me behind my back, calling me names and laughing at my expense. She confronted him in tears, accusing him of being complicit in a toxic family dynamic. Arguments turned into screaming matches, and soon divorce papers were on the table. Jacob tried to defend himself, but the evidence spoke louder than any excuse he could muster. Through it all, they reached out to me, frantic calls, desperate texts, guilt-ridden voicemails, but I stayed silent. Each message felt like another attempt to manipulate me back into their web. "You're destroying us," Mandy screamed in one voicemail. "Do you hate us that much?" Mom sobbed in another. But beneath their words lay the same old pattern: blame, control, entitlement. They weren't asking for reconciliation, they were demanding more sacrifices. And yet, despite their pleas, I didn't budge. For years, I let their crises dictate my life, turning myself into a human shield against their failures. Now, as their carefully constructed lives crumbled around them, I realized something profound. Their chaos wasn't mine to fix. Every missed payment, every argument, every tear, they weren't my burden to carry anymore. This time, I chose silence. And in that silence, I found strength. Sometimes, the smallest voice carries the loudest truth. Ellie, my youngest sibling, was always quiet. Too quiet to be noticed in a family that thrived on noise and drama. But beneath her silence lay something fierce, something none of us saw coming. She wasn't just aware of their cruelty, she documented it. Every laugh at my expense, every snide comment about the cash machine, every condescending glance, they were all captured by Ellie. Secretly, she recorded their voices, snapped photos of their mocking texts, and even filmed moments when they openly ridiculed me behind closed doors. When the storm hit, it came from her hands. Overnight, the private group chat, a toxic archive of entitlement and betrayal, was leaked online. Screenshots of their messages went viral, accompanied by audio clips of Jacob laughing as he called me a pet wallet. The internet erupted. Strangers dissected every word, turning our family's secrets into memes, reaction videos, and hashtags like #GlitterSignOfShame. It wasn't just an expose, it was a reckoning. I didn't know Ellie had done this until Mom showed up at my apartment, frantic and accusing. "She overheard you," Mom whispered, her face pale. "She recorded everything. She sent it to your email." When I opened the file, my heart stopped. There it was, years of humiliation packaged neatly into folders labeled with dates. Ellie's note read simply, "They don't deserve you. Love, E." In that moment, I realized Ellie wasn't just a child caught in their web. She was a rebel fighting back. Her act wasn't reckless. It was deliberate, fueled by years of witnessing their abuse. And while the fallout destroyed their carefully crafted facade, it gave me, and her, a chance to breathe freely for the first time. The internet has a way of turning private pain into public spectacle, and my family's secrets became its latest obsession. Within hours, the hashtags #CashMachineUncle and #GlitterSignOfShame were trending on every platform imaginable. Memes mocked their greed. Reaction videos dissected their cruelty. A blogger with millions of followers wrote a scathing analysis titled, "When Family Becomes a Parasite," comparing me to other victims of familial exploitation. Adult children drained by aging parents, siblings coerced into funding reckless lifestyles, even distant relatives guilt-tripped into paying for weddings they weren't invited to. But it wasn't just the online outrage that shook them, it was the real-world consequences. Friends who once flocked to their lavish parties now avoided their calls. Neighbors whispered behind closed doors, pointing fingers at the house with the glittering sign still taped to the door. My parents, once proud hosts of holiday gatherings, found themselves isolated, their golden reputation tarnished beyond repair. Mandy's influencer career imploded after brands cut ties, citing ethical concerns. Jacob faced glares at work when colleagues recognized his name from viral screenshots. And yet, amid the chaos, something unexpected happened. Strangers began calling me a hero. Messages poured in from people sharing their own stories of being used, manipulated, or discarded by family members. One woman wrote, "You gave me courage to say no to my brother who always demanded but never appreciated." Another said simply, "Thank you for showing us we don't have to be martyrs." Still, I didn't feel like a hero. I felt raw, exposed, vulnerable, but strangely alive. The weight of their judgment pressed down on me, but so did the realization that I wasn't alone. For years, I thought silence protected me. Now, I understand that sometimes the loudest roar comes from breaking free. Sometimes, the smallest gestures ripple outward in ways you can't predict. Ellie's letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, tucked inside an envelope that felt like it carried the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. I didn't recognize her handwriting at first. It was shaky, uneven, as if she'd been fighting back tears while writing. But when I opened it, the words hit me harder than any accusation or apology ever could. "Thank you for being the only one who ever asked how I felt and actually listened." Her words weren't just gratitude, they were a lifeline. She wrote about how she'd watched them tear me apart, piece by piece, with their demands and mockery. "I didn't understand it then," she confessed, "but now I see what they did to you, and what they tried to do to me." She revealed that Mom had refused to let her go to therapy, dismissing it as unnecessary. So Ellie took matters into her own hands, confiding in her school counselor instead. "She helped me write this," Ellie admitted. "I'm scared, but I want to live differently because of you." Reading those lines, something inside me shifted. For years, I thought I was alone in my pain, just another cog in their machine. But Ellie saw it. She felt it. And now, because of her courage, she was breaking free too. Her decision to seek help wasn't just rebellion. It was survival. She ended the letter with a simple yet powerful declaration. "You showed me that family isn't about obligation. It's about love. Real love." As I folded the letter and placed it in a frame, I realized something profound. My choice hadn't just saved me. It had sparked something in Ellie. She wasn't running from our family anymore. She was running toward herself. And maybe, just maybe, that was the bravest act of all. There's something terrifying about exposing your wounds to the world, but also something liberating. For days after the glitter sign incident, I sat down at my laptop and opened Facebook for the first time in years. The same platform where Mandy had flaunted her perfect life, funded by my paycheck, would now host my declaration of independence. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling not from fear, but from resolve. I wrote, "Since things have gone public, I'll keep it public." For years, I paid for vacations, bills, rent, schooling, gifts, champagne, and no-drama parties. I was told it was family. I now know it was manipulation with glitter pins. So let me be clear, I'm done. No more money. No more bailouts. No more covering for grown adults who mock me behind my back while cashing my support like a paycheck. I hit post, and within minutes, the notifications exploded. Likes poured in, 78 in 5 minutes, 124 comments in 10. Strangers shared their own stories of being exploited by family members. Some called me brave, others labeled me a hero. But what struck me most was the sheer volume of people saying, "Thank you for speaking up." Of course, they came crawling back, Mandy begging me to delete the post, Jacob accusing me of betrayal, Mom sobbing on voicemail, but I didn't budge. Their guilt-tripping tactics no longer worked because the truth was out there, undeniable and unshakable. One message stood out, an anonymous note that read, "You can destroy everything, but don't think we'll forget." I smiled as I replied, "Good. Remember, every time the bills stack up, every time you wonder where the money went, and every time you pick up the phone hoping for a bailout. That was the last check, the last favor, and the last year you lived off me." For the first time, silence wasn't lonely. It was powerful. Freedom doesn't announce itself with fireworks or parades. It arrives quietly, like the first ray of sunlight breaking through a storm cloud. For me, it came in the form of a one-bedroom apartment, small, unremarkable, but mine. No glittering signs on the door, no shadows looming over my shoulder, just clean walls and silence I didn't have to earn. I unpacked slowly, almost reverently, as if handling fragile artifacts from another life. The absence of family portraits glaring down at me felt surreal, like shedding an invisible weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. I started rediscovering things I'd forgotten existed: joy in solitude, pride in self-sufficiency, peace in the mundane. Cooking became more than sustenance. It was creation. I experimented with recipes, spilling spices and laughing at my own mistakes, something I never dared do in my parents' pristine kitchen. Then there was the plant, a tiny fern I bought on impulse. Every time I watered it, I felt a strange sense of accomplishment, as though nurturing something alive reminded me I too could grow again. Traveling alone was the hardest, yet most liberating step. No itinerary dictated by others, no splitting bills unevenly, no pretending to enjoy luxury vacations I couldn't afford. Just me, a backpack, and the open road. On my first trip, I sat by a lake at sunrise, watching the mist rise while birds chirped around me. In that moment, I understood what true wealth was: not money, but moments untouched by obligation. And then there was the phone, that cursed device used to buzz incessantly, each notification a potential crisis waiting to drain me. Now, it stayed silent for hours, days even. At first, the quiet unnerved me. I kept checking it out of habit. But eventually, the stillness became sacred. It wasn't emptiness, it was freedom. Freedom to exist without being needed, without being a solution to someone else's problems. For the first time in years, I belonged to myself. There's a moment when the mirror stops reflecting who you were and starts showing who you've become. For me, that moment came late one night, standing in my tiny bathroom with the fluorescent light buzzing overhead. I stared at my reflection. Same face, same tired eyes, but something was different. The weight that had pressed against my chest for years, invisible but suffocating, was gone. I'm not their cash machine anymore, I whispered, testing the words on my tongue. They tasted like freedom. But it wasn't just about money. It never had been. It was about identity. For so long, I'd let them define me. The quiet one, the reliable one, the one who always paid, no questions asked. They took pieces of me until there was almost nothing left. And now? Now I was reclaiming every single shard. I thought about all the times I'd silenced myself, swallowed my pride, nodded along to their demands. Each memory felt like a ghost, lingering but powerless. I wasn't afraid of them anymore. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror again, this time fully dressed, ready to face the day. I looked myself in the eye and said aloud, clear enough for anyone listening, real or imagined, I am not a victim anymore. I am a survivor. My voice cracked on the last word, but it didn't matter. The truth behind it echoed louder than any doubt. And then I laughed, not bitterly, but genuinely. Because here's the thing, they tried to break me. They labeled me, used me, discarded me when I stopped being useful. But they failed. In walking away, I found something they'll never understand: self-respect. It's not dramatic. It doesn't glitter or shine. But it's mine. Every breath I take without their demands feels like victory. Every decision made for myself feels like redemption. So if they're watching, and I know they are, let them see this. I chose me. And I'd do it again.